How do you make events special when doing events is like so blown out and played out, and it feels like, especially after COVID, a lot of the audience kind of like moved on past going to rap shows. It kind of felt like how do you make your shit like really stand out? Because you guys are like building a brand that's largely about the experience that people have going to these shows. How do you make it special?
Something me and my brother always talk about is like, damn, like we caught that like that live show wave right after COVID, when no one was too scared, when people were too scared to do events.
Stopped. We were initially just doing the videos and filming shows, and then COVID stopped us. Like, we can't do that.
And so coming out of COVID, we're like, let's see how this show shit is about. You know, we had to go through so many loopholes with vaccines and masks. And I remember it got to the point where I had a fake vaccine. Like I made like a, this is so federal, but I made like a fake vaccine, and I was sending it out to like these kids that wanted to come, because the venue was like, yo, they can't come if they're not vaccinated. And I'm not gonna tell you like these kids to get vaccinated. I'm like, yo, here's a fake card. Write your name on it.
Come to our show.
I feel like that was a thing for like a month. Like people thought that they were really gonna be able to check.
Jailed for not being vaccinated.
I definitely went to some events and shit where like they were checking my vax card. I went to a wedding where they checked my vaccine card on the way in.
No, it was real. It was real.
No, we said this before too, but I think the biggest thing that made it special was advice from Josiah. He said, make sure your festival seems like a playlist. If someone has a playlist, like if you were to come live, all 6 artists, like that's someone's playlist
like,
in their phone.
Make sure sonically sounds good, because I feel like when some people try to do lineups, it'll be like 5 different rappers, 5 different genres, and it doesn't mesh well, and the crowds don't mesh well because they're all, you know, different types of people, and it's like it's all about unison and like really coming up and like, you know, a kick ass of a show, and like where everyone's just with the same music,
every lyric to every artist from.
I feel like you have to have the balls to book a lineup of artists that are actually like representative of the vibe that you're going for, regardless of if that means that it's going to be a smaller show at first or whatever. And then I also feel like there's a thing that happens when you DJ a show where you might have like ill underground music taste, but when you're DJing, it's very tempting to play Finito and Waka Flocka, Hard in the Pain, and all this shit that will actually make the crowd go crazy. So you kind of have to like book DJs and like give them the freedom to say like, hey, like play this underground shit that the audience like, we want an audience that's going to appreciate that. And if they don't move because they don't know these songs, like let that be a experience of sort of like enlightenment for them, where they get turned on to new artists at this kind of
event. Would you say like back in 2016 people were more closed-minded or less closed-minded? It's like new music and whatnot.
I feel like people were more open-minded in 2016 for sure, because shit just wasn't as played out. And like when you think about it now, it's like it's hard to imagine people being as hyped on like a Lil Pump. You know, like because it's like, oh, he's 16 and he does Xanax and he got face tattoos and he's like got some good
like,
songs, some good songs realistically, but like people were going crazy for it. And now I feel like it would just be like they'd be memeing him if he came out today. You know?
That's something like if you put like your typical dreadhead with face tats in this day and age, like how would the scene react? And people get clowned on. Like I feel like,
but it is cool. It's like I feel
people
like it's
are more susceptible to getting clowned on now. Like a rapper, like bro, they be flaming these rappers now, bro, for even like the littlest shit.
Right?
They get rejected by a girl, they flame you. Those in the comments just bringing it up every single time. Like the whole Kai Cenat shit. Did you see when he got rejected by Tyler?
Yeah.
He ended up on national news for
blogs everywhere. I'm like,
bro,
that's you can't even fuck up on little things, bro.
Little things.
Like that's like to the extreme. Obviously, with these rappers now, like they do some shit. They get flamed and they get, you know, more criticism too now.
But when you look at Kai and Ross, I feel like they're masters of like of just like thinking of things that will go viral and then having the team behind them to actually make that shit go viral. You know, like with Aiden Ross and Sexy Red, like that was all a play. Like he said something about he her, then she responds, and like this is a whole news cycle, and then it comes out that he's actually just like a co-star in her music video, and it's like, oh, okay, so this was all like a long rollout to a music video.
That makes sense.
I feel like it's kind of hard to distinguish like what's a rollout and what's real. Some people just really buy into the rollout and be like, yo, no, he actually f***ed her, but it's like, nah, like this whole music video game.
Like having been behind the scenes on this shit, for sure, I don't know if that Tyler thing was fake, because like it's totally within Kai Cenat's wheelhouse to have his manager saying like, listen, we have a viral idea. He's gonna ask you on a date. You're gonna say no. It's gonna be funny as fuck. It'll go viral. Like, but Kai, like you kind of got to be down if you're really making content like that to be the butt of the joke. You know?
100%. And I feel like that's what sort of this underground shit is sort of not in butt of the joke, but like more so like. There's sort of like a little niche they gotta like apply themselves to, or a certain like agenda where there's like, you know, for example, like Ian's hard as
right.
I feel like obviously he's white, not, you know, you listen to his music, you don't think he's white, but he's hard as
and his look is very simple too, but it's working.
Also people like Ned Spin and like, you know, Yeet, where it's like, damn, like you're a white boy, so it's like I have like that shock value is basically, you know, instead of being about the joke, like they want to be like the shock value of which is cool because it's like, you know, it's not your typical dreadhead with tats. It's more so like, you know, anyone can look how they want to look and still make some good music.
And that audience is like maybe smaller than it was in 2016, but they're like super passionate about new up and coming underground shit. And they're just like, I feel like that's the kind of audience that you guys are tapping into, and not even like SoundCloud 2.0, like Sofago era, like all those type of dudes when they were coming out. I feel like now we're in like the middle of like a different generation that's kind
We're
of
through a little like transition period. It's like it's always like a 5-year, 4-year cycle. Whereas like, you know, people will have their raise or their rise, and it'll get filtered to the like the next generation. Because 4 years ago was 2020. Like who were popping artists in 2020? It was like prime quarantine, right? Or like right before quarantine. Who's
Lone,
jumping?
Yeet, Fago, like.
Now this one they were underground.
Yeah, those more
That's when
underground at
they
that
were
time.
underground
So
for
damn.
2020.
But like who was really like the center of attention?
I feel like 2020 was like peak gang rap as well, of
Yeah,
like where that's where
Gunna.
shit started to get like mega street,
It's like Pop Smoke, right?
that
Somewhere
type of
around there.
shit.
Smoke
Like
had
Young
it.
Boy,
2020?
Dirk, fucking,
Yeah, a lot
and
of
then everybody like around that, because that's kind of what happened with like the whole original like SoundCloud era. Is it kind of like turned into like, oh, let's like listen to actual gang members who like legitimately have killed people, so we can believe their lyrics.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So in a way, like
Odd.
COVID kind of helped you guys.
Oh, no,
launch
for
this
sure.
shit,
For
for
sure.
sure.
Bro, we had these conversations all the time where it's like, bro, like COVID damn near birthed Box Boys, because it's like, you know, right before quarantine, you know, it was sort of like it was just like a weird thing where it's like, you know, pre-quarantine, there wasn't that many moves to be made in the underground because like everything was going too mainstream. But COVID is sort of like backtrack, like, you know, who was coming up, because it stopped a lot of shit. It
Slow down.
fucked a lot of careers. It started a lot of careers, and like we were just fortunate to like, you know, use that to the best of our ability. It's like, you know, coming off of quarantine, bam, let's be the first people throwing shows, and we did it. And you know, we just kept on building on that, and new artists were coming up, because I feel like also in quarantine, kids got real used to, you know, being on BandLab and recording in their closet and having millions of streams off a song they made in their bedroom. And it's like, things became real internet.
Yeah.
Things became real internet. So if you weren't, you know, hip to the internet, like you sort of just got lost in the sauce.
Washed
for real.
out. Yeah, you're
You got,
washed
like,
out.
That's facts, because like there were like multiple like companies that I know who are doing events in 2014, 2015, that whole era, and then like once COVID hit, they stopped doing events, and then they just kind of never really made like a full comeback and shit. And I feel like you guys sort of seized that opportunity because you were smaller and like more nimble. And think about like Rolling Loud. Rolling Loud's when the COVID shit happens, because they're big corporate. They have to really go by the law and the rules and shit, because they're not trying to get sued for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But you guys are like able to sort of slip in there and like
A little risk.
build something different. Yeah.
We just like forced our way in, bro, because it's like so many kids and careers were just like birthed from COVID. We're like, yo, like let's these people while no one's with them. And that's sort of how we just, you know, we just like, and we generally with it too. Like it wasn't like we were trying to like force ourselves into it, because, you know, I'm like the demographic that might, you know, I'm the target audience of my own shows, because I'm 21 now. But like back then, like it was a bunch of 19, 18-year-olds going to come to the shows. Like I was 19, 17 throwing these shows. So it was like I was making these lineups with my brother, and we were like, yo, like we actually fuck with these artists, and so were the kids at the time. So like it just worked so like coherent.